So what makes a company vulnerable to these attacks? Well, there may be personnel issues, maybe they have technology problems or just haven't invested the right amount in cybersecurity defense. There could be procedural factors as well as operational issues. And I thought it was kind of interesting that a recent report was named the Cybersecurity Sweet Spot. These folks went out and did 310 presentation tests across 148 organizations of various sizes. And in their conclusions, they recommended that virtually all these companies should move to two-factor authentication. So while you and I may complain about having to go through 2 steps to be authenticated, that's really proving to be a good way to maintain security. Others suggestions were expanding patch management beyond Windows Update. And that means for operating systems and doing the updates, how do you patch those prior versions in order to make them more secure? Also, just maintaining an accurate inventory of your systems and all their interdependencies is really important. So you can go isolated attack and maybe disconnect where it might be coming from offline, and that maybe reduce your vulnerability. In big organizations, lots of these vulnerabilities were when mergers had taken place. And another thing was when a lot of shadow IT was common. So what's shadow IT? That's when an employee goes and kind of does their own IT off the side by hiring some other vendor and maybe transferring some of the company's data to that site and doing their processing, which of course opens up a lot of vulnerabilities. Finally, phishing was identified as a major problem, and you've probably heard of this. It's when you receive an email and someone asks for identifying information and you inadvertently provide it because you think the email may be from a friend, but it wasn't, and all of a sudden someone is into your system or has your login credentials and they're off and running and hacking. So those are some of the things that make a company vulnerable. Now, who's out there perpetrating all this? Well, there's kind of a delineation between what some call white hat versus black hat hackers. And of course, black hats are the bad guys. They sell the data to criminal organizations through the dark web and the black market. White hats it's a little bit more interesting. They find vulnerabilities and expose it to the developers. And that allows patches and improves security all before black hats can exploit the vulnerability. So there are people working on the other side to just counter the bad folks who are doing the hacking. There's something in between too. They call it gray hats. This is a person who doesn't work for personal gain or to cause damage, but they may technically commit some crimes and do some unethical things as they gain access and make discoveries. So those are some of the folks out there and their descriptions who are trying to get into systems for various reasons. There's a nice framework that talks about different categories of cybersecurity functions in organizations. And I don't want to go into detail on this, but it's one that you can take a look at. It's called the National Initiatives for Cybersecurity Education. And the abbreviation's easy to remember. It's NICE. And it has categories of common cybersecurity functions, the areas of cybersecurity work, what the work roles are, and what people are supposed to do in those areas. And there are wonderful career opportunities in this area. If you look online at some of the job sites and type in cybersecurity, you'll just be amazed at the number of jobs that come up. It's a real bad problem for a lot of companies, and they need high quality, really intelligent people to help counter these threats. So another thing that I want to mention are ways that, or descriptions of the mechanisms that company use to get inside, that black hats use to get inside your systems. And one of the generic terms that's used is called malware. And malware is basically software that has some malicious intent. It acts against the interest of the computer user, and it doesn't include software, for example, that causes unintentional harm due to some deficiency like a software bug. This is really something that someone is inserting into your system that's intended to cause some problem. So we call that malware. 3 areas of those are viruses, worms, and Trojans. Now, antivirus software and firewalls and other strategies are used to help protect against this introduction of malware into your computer systems. And also going out and checking for the presence of this malware and the malicious activity and recovering from attacks is a role of a lot of the software systems that are provided by cybersecurity experts. So what's the difference between this virus, worm, and this Trojan, these different definitions there? Well, a virus is software that embeds itself in some other executable software. And that may be the operating system itself that it gets embedded in. And usually it won't have the user's knowledge or consent that it's there, and when it's run, then the virus, of course, spreads to other executables. Hence, spreading like a virus is how it got its name. Another example is a worm. That's a standalone malware software that actively transmits itself over a network to infect other computers. So it's actually sending messages to send itself to other unaware people as it infects other computers. Finally, a Trojan horse is a harmful program that misrepresents itself to masquerade as a regular or benign program. So it persuades a victim to install it, and it typically has some hidden disruptive function that's activated when the application is started. And of course, this Trojan horse has been used or has been mentioned as being the rationale for the Stuxnet issue that was involved in attacking the Iranian centrifuges some time back. And so Trojan horses are viable from both I suppose, the black hat and the cybersecurity and cyber warfare side. Another thing that you'll come across, probably more personal to you, are keyloggers. And that references malicious computer programs that capture and record your keystrokes. They'll get every word and character and button that you press on your keyboard, and then they send a record of your keystrokes to the attacker. So that really allows an attacker to exploit your passwords because they don't have a chance to get encrypted if they're capturing it right on the keylogger. Another example is card skimming, and that's where payment information gets harvested from a card reading terminal. And a lot of this happens at gas stations, unfortunately. So you pull up and you use your credit card at the gas station and it's being skimmed, and that information gets sent or transmitted to the attacker. So my advice is when you go to the gas station, go inside to make your payment. One other example I'll mention is something called SQL injection. And SQL is the structured query language, and that's a coding language for database systems. And there's a magazine, or it's called an e-zine, by hackers for hackers that's called Phrack, P-H-R-A-C-K. And this SQL injection was first disclosed there. And by the way, I advise you to stay far away from that website. It's nothing to go mess around in. But it's basically what happens that when you insert that code into regular windows that are requesting information, then it can go create issues in the databases of the system because the designers of those interfaces didn't expect that actual code would be inserted instead of people's names and things like that. So that's called SQL injection. So protection against hackers, this is just some advice to you. Create, and you've probably heard much of this before, make complex passwords. Don't give out your password to anybody. Change those passwords often. Do take advantage of two-factor authentication. This was one that was new to me. Avoid using the correct answer for security questions. So if you get one of those things that say, what are your security questions? Make something up so that no one could look at other data and fill in the correct action. Be sure and log out of your accounts when you're done with them. Close your browser. Make sure you're on an official website when you enter your password. There can be fake websites that can cause a lot of harm. Change your phone's passcode often. We often forget that the phone is as vulnerable as any computer that we might own. And update your devices and software when updates do come out. Don't postpone those. Charge your phone on reliable USB ports. Don't just stick your phone into anything in any public space. If you can find a reliable spot, that's much better. Avoid jailbreaking or rooting if you're an Android user, your phone, or side loading apps. And that means loading apps from parties other than trusted sources. Back up your data frequently so you can recover if you need to. And avoid clicking suspicious links or responding to unknown emails. Also, install that antivirus software on your computer. Just take that extra step to protect yourself. That concludes our discussion of cybersecurity. There's lots more that you can cover and read. And again, as I was saying, there's lots of jobs out there for people who are interested in getting involved in this and helping companies defend themselves against these attacks. Thank you.